today. My name is Ron. I'm originally from the Netherlands, but I've been in Korea for 25 years. And I gave up my Dutch nationality and got Korean nationality. I started practicing yoga 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago. And I've seen many changes taking place. But apart from the fact that we have, of course, gained a lot of experience, deeper insights, we have not changed. At the time when I started practicing yoga, and when I started studying yoga, there was only one yoga. And it was what we now know as traditional yoga. "20 years ago, 23 years ago to be more precise, things changed considerably. When I started practicing yoga, yoga was a little bit obscure. Yoga was not for everybody. It was, in the Netherlands, yoga was for new age people. The same kind of people that you find in shops that sell organic products, health food and those kind of things. Yoga was for people who naturally felt inclined towards spirituality, who were looking for answers in that respect. So, a little bit obscure and not a big thing, especially not commercially. Yoga studios with mirrors didn't exist. These kind of yoga mats didn't exist. We practice on a woolen blanket. What changed is the commercialization of yoga. In late 1990s, 1998, 1999, people in the world became aware of famous people practicing yoga. Sting from the Police, Madonna, Christy Turlington, famous photo model, and many other people, of course. And what happens then is that the marketing industry jumps on it. Because when famous people say they practice yoga, normal people like you and me become interested. But yoga is obscure. And many people have an interest in yoga, but then they realize it's a little bit weird because they don't understand exactly. So it's a little bit weird, a little bit creepy maybe. So to commercialize yoga, to make it profitable, they eliminated all the valuable aspects of yoga. Meditation, studying philosophy, energy control, even asana practice. The physical aspect of yoga is very particular, and they changed it. They changed it and it lost its value. Why did they change it? For money, out of greed, so that many people would come to the yoga studio, become a member, pay money. So what I want to do today in this workshop is explain what yoga is, what yoga really is. I want to explain what the difference is between modern yoga and traditional yoga, what the benefits are, and the reason why yoga only works if you practice it in the traditional way. And I will explain why in very practical terms, why it doesn't work when approached in the modern way, in the commercial way. Traditional yoga, real yoga, these days is very difficult to find. Almost all yoga studios, almost all yoga classes are modern yoga. And they have one thing in common: movement. It's all flow yoga, power yoga, ashtanga yoga, bikram yoga, hot yoga, vinyasa. And these are all good exercise. Exercise is good for everybody. Anybody who exercises gets stronger and healthier and happier. So no mistake about it, it's good, but it's not yoga. And I will explain why today. And this is very important because most yoga teachers, meaning people who have had a teacher training, people who have certificates, diplomas, to show that they are a yoga teacher, they don't understand what yoga really is. They don't understand, they don't know what I'm going to tell you today about real yoga. And that's a little bit sad. People claiming to be teachers, not understanding actually the essence of what they are teaching. That does not diminish them in terms of their quality as an exercise trainer, a physical education trainer. But it's just not yoga. So sometimes I may sound a little bit negative, but no mistake about it. Exercise is always good. So what you find in 99% of all the yoga studios these days, technically does not deserve the name yoga, but still it's good for people to do. It's just a new fashion. Before yoga was popular, people would go to belly dance or to taekwondo or to jogging, or it's just the fashion. The big thing these days in terms of fitness is yoga. There are here in a small circle, there are many studios here, and all of them have many members. It's just an indication of how popular yoga really is. So, all of you have experience with yoga? No?
No, I mean, I've taken classes, but I'm not.
Oh, okay. No, that's good. So, let's start with the meaning of yoga. What does yoga mean? Many people will say yoga means union because they learned that in their class. Is that true? Does it mean union? It doesn't mean union. But if you do yoga correctly, it can lead to union. Now, sadly, people know the word union, but nobody explained to them union of what? What are we unifying? The people who told them yoga is union never told them. explained. And they also didn't tell them how to create union. Because they say yoga means union, and then they do Ashtanga yoga or Vinyasa yoga or flow yoga, which does not lead to union. And I'm going to explain why. I'm going to explain how traditional yoga actually lead to union. And I will explain the union of what. And I will also explain why other modern yoga, commercial yoga, does not lead to union. But first, the word yoga, what does it mean? Indian people, are you from India?
Yes.
Yeah? Indian people, when they talk about yoga, they don't say yoga. They say yoke. Indian language, no, European languages are all related to Indian language. Technically, the European languages are called Indo-European languages. And you will see something very interesting here. Yoga means control. A very, not just control, a typical kind of control, because control in Sanskrit is nirodha. But yoga is control. The word yoga comes from the old Sanskrit word yuj. Yuj. Yoke. Yuj. But in English, it translates as yoke. Old people know what a yoke is. Young people don't know what a yoke is because they've never been at a farm. And if they have been at a farm, they saw tractors doing the work. But this is where it becomes interesting once you understand what a yoke means. But let me finish this first. In Dutch, translated to Dutch, it's juk. You don't pronounce this in the English way. Then it would be juk. But you pronounce it in the Dutch way, juk. You see the connection? Yoke, yuj, juk, yoke. Modern Indian language, Sanskrit, English, Dutch. Indo-European languages. What is a yoke? A yoke is an appliance that farmers used to harness energy. Harness energy, control energy. Of what? Of a big, strong animal. Try to imagine this. Tens of thousands of years ago, human beings were hunter-gatherers. They constantly moved around, and they would catch animals and feed themselves. But then, when they evolved and they became smarter, they said life will be more comfortable, more steady, more secure, if I don't have to move around all the time. And they invented agriculture. Agriculture means that you have to plow the land. you have to harvest and bring the harvest home. And that's very heavy work. So try to picture the ancient human beings working very hard in the field to plant, to plow, to harvest. And then, in a moment in which they relax and take a deep breath, they look in the distance, in the prairie, and they see these big animals. Horses, cows, big animals. A human being is only 60, 70 kilo of muscle mass. So our ability is very limited. And working in the field is very hard because of that. There is an animal, 1,000 kilo, muscle mass, strength, and all that it is doing is eating some grass, eating some leaves, and just lying, doing nothing. So the farmer, with sweat on his forehead, said, what if I could harness the energy of that big animal, and it could help me to plow the field? It could help me to harvest and to bring the harvest home. And so, in a moment of contemplation, he realized that he needed a tool, an appliance that he could use to harness the energy of that animal so that it can work together with the farmer. That appliance is the yoke. It is the appliance that they put around the neck of the animal. They connect some leads to the appliance to which they can connect the plow. And the big, strong animal pulls the plow through the soil, and the farmer only has to lead, only has to control, guide the animal. And when the harvest is done, he can connect the yoke, the leads from the yoke to the cart. He piles up the harvest on the cart, he guides the animal home. So he doesn't have to carry the harvest on his back. That is a yoke. And that is why yoga technically means control. Control of what? Control of energy. By controlling the 1,000 kilo horse or cow, you are controlling that animal's energy, and it will do the work for you, and it will make your life a lot easier. So, how do you do that? That is the question. And that is what we are here to learn about. So, I kind of already told you, but I'm going to ask anyway. Because we live in a time that we think there are many different kinds of yoga, right? But how many yogas are there, actually? How many different kinds of yoga are there? I'd say only one. The science of yoga. Raja Yoga is the science of yoga. And you can put emphasis on energy control, or you can put emphasis on meditation, or you can put emphasis on asana and give it another name. But in the end, there is only one yoga. It's the whole science of yoga. Raja Yoga is the whole science of yoga. What kind of science is it? It's a humanistic science. It's the study of the human being on a very deep level. On a very deep level of how we function subconsciously, but also how we function in terms of energy, how we waste precious energy, and more importantly, how we can control that energy so that it starts to work for us like the cow or the horse works for us. This is what yoga does. We live in a modern time where we have all the comforts and conveniences of modern technology. When we arrive home, we take the elevator. We don't have to climb the stairs anymore. When we need to wash clothes, we push a button and the machine will wash the laundry. When we need to go somewhere, we get into a car or a train or a bus. We don't have to walk anymore. And yet, one of the most heard complaints these days is, I'm so tired. Why am I always so tired? But there's no hard labor. There's no physical labor. Everything is done conveniently by technology and machines. So the question is, why are people always so tired? It's not because of physical activity. Then what is it? Mental activity. But the problem is, physical activity is easy to understand. When you work hard, your body hurts, you feel tired. But the mind, for a very large part, functions subconsciously. In daily life situations, we are constantly triggered to react. And we react with emotions. We react with feelings, often negative, pessimistic feelings. And these are draining our energies without us being aware of it. And that is the big problem. We don't know that it is happening. But energy is limited. You and I, we are a ball of energy. And that energy is limited. So if you waste 80% of your energy through mental activity, subconscious activity, you have only 20% left. The whole system of yoga is designed to switch the balance, shift the balance, so that you not only have 20% left to function, to manifest, but 60% instead. That is why people who practice yoga, they feel younger, they feel healthier, they feel happier, they look younger. Why? Everything is energy. If you don't have energy, you age faster and you feel older. If you have lots of energy, regardless of your age, you still feel young and light and healthy. It's all about energy. Energy can be very powerful, or it can be very ineffective. An example of energy being very powerful is a laser beam. You understand laser? Laser beam? What is a laser beam? Energy, right? What kind of energy? Concentrated energy. If energy is not harnessed, it's ineffective. It doesn't manifest into something. However, if energy is harnessed, concentrated, controlled, then it starts to work. Then it starts to become powerful. I have many examples of this, but first, let's go to one example I always use. This is a house. It's a house. It's a house in Siberia. Siberia is very cold. So you go out, you work, you go to school, you go shopping, and you're cold. So you come home, then what do? You turn on the heater, right? It's very cold, so you turn on the heater. Because it's very cold, you turn the heater to 10. The highest setting of the boiler. The boiler, what is a boiler? It uses energy to create heat. Your body uses energy to create heat, that's why you're warm. So you burn gas or oil to heat up your house. This house is you and me. This house is not controlled, like most human beings, not conditioned. There is no insulation. It has only single window pane. There is no insulation in the roof, in the walls, in the door. So what happens? You put your boiler at 10, but the house does not really become comfortable because all that precious heat, energy is lost. There is no control mechanism, there is no insulation. And this is the condition of most people. We burn a lot of energy, but we lose it so quickly, so easily. Because we're not aware of it. We're not aware of the mental activity that is wasting all this energy. So what is yoga? Yoga is in fact a process of insulating your house. So this house in this condition, it will never be really warm. It will never be really comfortable. Even though you spend a lot of money for gasoline to heat your house. What do? What does the smart human being do? You go to the shop and you order insulation material. You buy new window panes that are triple layers of glass. In Korea you have 2 layers of glass, but it's Siberia, very cold, so 3 layers of glass. You insulate the roof. A lot of heat goes lost through the roof. You insulate the walls. Double walls with glass wool in between, or foam. Now you come home. You turn on the boiler, and all you have to do is set it at 3. You burn much less oil or gas But because you insulated the house becomes very warm, very cozy, very comfortable, while you save a lot of energy, because it now stays inside the house. This is, you compare this house with your body, with a human being. A human being that loses energy a lot will never be comfortable, will always be restless, uncomfortable, and unhealthy often too, and unhappy too. Because a human being that is full of energy translates into joy and happiness. It naturally does. It's not material things that make us happy. There are many people who are rich and yet they are very unhappy. Most of them are, in fact, very unhappy. What makes us happy? Lots of energy, good health. That is what makes us happy. The laser beam is like this. There is lots of energy, but it's not guided, it's not canalized, it's not controlled, so that energy does not amount to anything. Nothing comes out of it, nothing is produced out of it. In extreme form, it comes to a laser beam. You know what a laser beam does? It can cut through reinforced concrete. Thick, reinforced concrete. It can cut through armored steel. How is that possible? There's no explosion, there's no rocket. It's pure energy that cuts through the concrete and the steel. Why is that possible? Because we found a way to concentrate that energy. You bring a lot of energy together and you put it in one tiny little beam. And it cuts, it's so powerful, it cuts through steel. This is very dramatic and very extreme, but this is what yoga does. That is why yoga means control. Control of what? Control of energy. And the thing is, when you read yoga books like Patanjali and Svatmarama, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it's just there in front of you. Those books only talk about energy. And yet, most yoga teachers who are supposed to have studied those books because they are the foundation of yoga, they are the Bibles of yoga, they don't know. What you learn in yoga is about muscles and joints, and it's all about the physical aspect of the human being, right? But if you learn real yoga, ancient, traditional yoga, there is no mention of the physical body. In a modern yoga teacher training course, 70% of the curriculum, most of the course exists out of physical anatomy. And you have to study very hard and you have to do a test about all the physical aspects of the human body. Show me one real yoga book and I will prove to you that there is no physical anatomy in yoga. There is not a chapter, there is not even a paragraph that deals with muscles and joints and organs in traditional yoga books. Strange, huh? But why? Because everything is energy. There are several Koreans here. In India, you have Ayurveda. Traditional medicine is based not on the physical body. Traditional medicine, like honey one, is based on energy. And so is yoga. A traditional doctor, when you are sick, he doesn't treat your disease, he will treat the cause of the disease. The disease is the symptom. I have a wound, I have a cancer, I have something wrong in my body. It's only the symptom. What caused the symptom is a blockage in the energy household. So when you treat the energy, the body becomes healthy. That is why yoga, by definition, is healing. Anybody who practices yoga will get healthier. And if you have any existing diseases, they will gradually heal. It's not like a magic pill, like the modern pharmaceutical industry can provide you with a pill with an immediate effect, because it's a chemical with many side effects. Yoga is like homeopathic medicine. Every day you take a little bit, and after a month you start to see results. After 3 months you start to see more results. Any existing diseases that you already have, slowly but certainly are healed. And when you are then in a good health, the next step is that you won't get sick anymore. Why? Because you are brimming with energy. A body that is full of vital energy does not allow disease to occur. People who get sick because their energy is poor, because their energy is blocked, because there is no harmony. You recognize this? So, there is one yoga, the whole science of yoga. Now, how old is yoga? How old is yoga? When I started practicing yoga, and I started practicing from a book actually, and then later I started learning, studying and practicing with Ajita in Amsterdam. Which number comes up when you think about yoga, how old yoga is? 5,000 years old, right? Okay, next question. How old is Korean culture? Yeah! Now the light goes on. 5,000 years, right? Korean culture is 5,000 years old.
Yeah, I guess so.
How is that possible? Is that a coincidence? No, it's not. But where does this number 5,000 come from? It is because our written history, documented history, goes back 5,000 years. Before that, there are no records from before 5,000 years. There are no books, there's no written record what happened before 5,000 years. So everything in this world is 5,000 years old. The Bible also says that the world is 7,000 years old. 7,000, right? So the question is, okay, if Korean culture is 5,000 years old, does that mean that 10,000 years ago, Korea didn't exist? Does it mean that 10,000 years ago, yoga did not exist? Just 5,000 years ago, suddenly, Korean people came into being and yoga came into being? To answer the question, how old is yoga? You have to understand the essence of yoga. Yoga is a science of the human being. That means people have to have put thought into it. But 200,000 years ago, we didn't have the power of thought. Human beings did not have the power of thought. They did not have science. They were just like animals, they were eating to survive. But yoga is a very deep study into the nature of the human being, especially psychologically. The subconscious functioning of the human being. When did we start creating that science? We cannot exactly say 10,000 years ago or 60,000 years ago. Yoga started to develop when human beings started asking questions. When we slowly transitioned from living like animals to becoming creatures with a mental capacity. When we started developing mental capacity, we started to ask questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of life? And what is this big red ball in the sky that makes me feel warm? What is this big white ball in the sky at night that constantly changes shape? We started wondering about everything that we see around us. So it started with simple questions that every yoga practitioner that starts to develop consciousness, because real yoga leads to consciousness, awakening consciousness, you will start with the same questions. The moment I started practicing yoga, I also asked myself, who am I and why am I here? But very important, I asked myself, why am I suffering? Why am I unhappy? Why do I feel pain? Not physically, but mentally. And yoga gives us all the answers to that. Yoga is a science of life that helps us reduce our suffering. The reason why we are suffering is because of subconscious functioning. The same issue that causes us to lose so much energy, that makes us so tired every day. So how old is yoga? Yoga is as old as mankind becoming conscious. The moment mankind developed consciousness, they started asking questions, and it has led, tens of thousands of years later, it has led to the very sophisticated science of life that we call yoga. The sad thing is that yoga is not taught like that anymore. It is here and there. Rare. It's rare. And it depends a little bit also which country you are. If you go to the Netherlands or Germany or Canada, there are many established traditional yoga schools that are very old. In Korea, it's all about fashion, about commerce, about making money. What we learn in yoga these days is exercising, stretching. We learn about the joints and the muscles. But that's not yoga. The joints and the muscles will be fine if our energy is fine. And the moment that you start practicing yoga correctly, it immediately starts to work. When I started practicing yoga 39 years ago, it's because I found a book in the library. Internet did not exist yet. We were playing basketball. There was a group of young guys like me, and we had a coach, a very big guy, a judo sonsu, professional. And when we were all sweaty and tired from the basketball game, he said, "Hey guys, come here, sit down." And we sat down, and we were looking at him, and like, what the hell is this? And he said, "Okay, one leg straight, one leg bent, okay? Grab your foot." And we grabbed our foot and we did like this. And he said, "No, stop bouncing. Grab your foot, straighten your back, and just breathe." And we did. And it felt amazing. It felt totally different from the running around with the ball. And it also felt totally different from this. It just felt amazing. One guy said, "Hey coach, what the hell is this?" And he said, "That's yoga, my friend." And I thought, wow. When I was 16, I had already read a book that I inherited from an uncle, a book about yoga. And I was very intrigued about the stories in that book, about how good yoga is for people, how it really changes how you feel, how it makes you healthier, stronger, but also happier. But at the age of 16, I was not ready to start yet, but I never forgot the impression. And when I was 20, and the basketball coach told us that is yoga, the same day after taking a shower, I went to the library and I was looking for yoga. And I found a little book, not a big one, many yoga books are big. I found a little book from the 1930s or 40s. It was a book from the Reader's Digest. Younger generation don't know what Reader's Digest is, but it was one of the biggest publishers of educational books in a global scale. And they had many books like Teach Yourself Indian Cooking, Teach Yourself Gardening, it's the title of the book, Teach Yourself Yoga. I found the book Teach Yourself Yoga. And that same evening, I started practicing yoga. Everything that I tell you here, I didn't know. But it felt so good. From that moment on, I practiced every evening before going to sleep. I even got rid of my TV. Because every time I was in my room with the TV on, I started to feel that it sucked out my energy. And it made me skip doing yoga, which at that point had become a holy thing for me. And the next morning I would wake up and I would so regret that I didn't practice yoga, because I got distracted by this stupid TV. I got rid of the TV, and instead of watching TV, I started writing. I started reading. And 1 hour before going to sleep, every evening, I would finish with yoga. And it completely changed my life. And this is the point. This is the point. I was like this house in Siberia that lost a lot of energy because of subconscious functioning. At the moment I started practicing yoga, I started canalizing my energy. And I started studying again. I started working. I started doing all kinds of constructive things. And it has led me to come to Korea. It is the reason why I'm here. It's also the reason why I don't get distracted by commercial aspect of yoga to make money. I don't get distracted because yoga is too valuable. The way that yoga helped me, I want it to help you. And that's only possible if I teach yoga in the traditional way. Not in the commercial way. The commercial way, I told you before, but there are two new people. The commercial way is a good exercise. And it will be good for people's health. But it's not yoga. It just does not lead to that canalizing of energy that transforms your life. That leads to an awakening of consciousness that continuously expands from the moment that you start practicing yoga. That process never stops. Even when you stop practicing yoga, that process never stops. It's like opening a can that you cannot close anymore. You cannot close the lid anymore. So it will change your life forever. And it's all because of energy. And it's so simple. It's so simple and it's so easy that people don't believe it. It's so simple, it's so easy that people can't believe that it has so many good benefits, that it is so powerful, in fact, into bringing transformation, into bringing change. We are all doubting Thomases in that sense. So we spend a lot of money on complicated things, thinking that we really benefit from it. But the only one who benefits from it is the person who sells it. While with yoga, you invest in yourself. And it really works. I'm going to explain you why. I have explained about energy, but there is a lot more about it, of course. Energy exists out of two opposing polarities, plus and minus. Feminine, masculine. Well, if it's plus and minus, we would say masculine and feminine. Yin and Yang, or Yang and Yin. Now, Yin cannot live without Yang. But Yin and Yang are actually Chinese. In Sanskrit or in Indian language we call it Shiva and Shakti. But let's first stick to the Yin and Yang. Wait, this marker is a little bit fake. Yin and Yang. One side is dark. One side is light. They're opposites. Masculine, feminine, plus, minus, Shiva, Shakti. But they have eyes. Then people think, oh, what a nice decoration. Because many people wear Yin and Yang on a ring or on a necklace or tattoo. Yin and Yang, because it looks nice and it's kind of mysterious. What we don't know is that these eyes are not a decoration. Because of the eyes, the Yin-Yang model is the model that represents, is a symbol for harmony. Harmony is the balance between the plus and the minus. Harmony is the balance between yin and yang, between Shiva and Shakti. Is that important? Many people think the harmony, that is just a theory. What the hell is that harmony? Well, harmony is the difference between failure and success. Harmony is the difference between war and peace. Harmony is the most important aspect of life. And I will also explain why in a very practical way. Back to the model, why is there a black eye or a dark eye in the light side and a light eye in the dark side? A dark eye in the light side, a light eye in the dark side. This means that the light side has the quality, carries also the quality of the dark side. And the dark side also carries the quality of the light side. In practical terms, if you look at me, you think there is a man standing there. And I look at you, Janya, and I see a girl, a woman. Which is correct, of course. Anatomically, we are a little bit different. But this is the model of the human being. What does it mean? I may be a man, but I have feminine characteristics too. You may be a woman, but you have masculine characteristics too. And that is true. You can see that when you observe other people. There are men that are very macho, tough guy. He's very masculine. But there are also men that are a little bit sensitive and girlish, and there is a lot in between. And the same with women. There are women that are very girlish, and there are women that are tough, and everything in between. There's always a balance. And very interestingly, if I'm a guy that is very masculine, what is the kind of girl that would attract me? That would be, of course, a very girlish person. And you can see this in gay relationships too. There's one person with masculine characteristics and one person with feminine characteristics. There must be a balance, otherwise the relationship will fail. If you are very masculine and you get into a relationship with a masculine person, in the beginning it may work, but very soon you find yourself having a lot of conflict. So it's about harmony. Harmony is there on all levels. In Ukraine, there is no harmony. There really isn't. There's war. And you see the destruction that comes with war. An example of a country where there is harmony is South Korea. Look at the facts. In 60 years' time, Korea became one of the wealthiest countries in the world. But it was 60, 70 years ago, it was one of the poorest countries in the world. That is astonishing in such a short time. Becoming so wealthy. How is that possible? That's the only thing that interests us. Because of peace. Harmony. As soon as there is harmony, things start to grow. Things start to develop. Europe is not one country, it is 30 countries, 31 countries. After 1,000 years of constant war in Europe, lots of suffering, lots of death, the European leaders, after the Second World War, another devastating, bloody war, they came together and they said, no more. Let's be friends. Let's team up with each other. Let's work together. And look what happened. It is the most thriving place in the world. The list of the top 10 happiest people in the world is all in Europe. Starting with Finland, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, Netherlands is second. I come from the Netherlands. I tell you, Dutch people are always grumpy. They're always complaining. But when asked, it's the second happiest country in the world. Why do we complain all the time? Well, that's because of the weather. So always raining, always chilly, always ooh. That's why I like Korea. It's always sunny, even in the winter. Peace is harmony. It's embedded in our language and we don't even know it anymore. Korean people, what do they say when they greet each other? 안녕하세요. It's a question. That means, are you in peace? We say it without realizing the meaning. But peace is the most important condition we can be in, regardless of whether we are poor or rich. And when we leave, we say, 안녕히 가세요. Go in peace. Muslims say salam. Jews say shalom. It means the same. Peace. It's so important that we say it many times a day, but we don't even realize anymore what it means and how important it is. Yoga is the science to create peace. First in yourself and then in the people around you. You become a natural healer. I come from a big family, 7 children. My parents divorced when I was 13. By the time I was 20, my whole family was suffering in pieces. Nobody trusted each other anymore. So much pain. When I started practicing yoga, I healed myself, and then I naturally started creating harmony with my family. I didn't even realize it. It just happened naturally. I started organizing gatherings with Christmas or with Easter or with my mom's birthday. And little by little, it became a very wonderful family again. A family that, when compared with others, is just amazing. We never have conflict. Compare that with most other families, there's always conflict. And it's almost always about money. Now, why am I talking so much about harmony? Yoga is the science of harmony. If you read the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, if you read the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, you will see that everything in yoga is about harmony. The exercises, physical exercise, is about harmony. Energy control is about harmony. Developing insight in our subconscious functioning, it's about harmony. Energy control, the mudras, the pranayamas, everything is about harmony. If you read the books, you will see every page. It's called sattva. That is the condition. That is the balance between Shiva and Shakti, between Yin and Yang. When there is too much Shiva energy, that condition is called tamas. When you're in a tamas condition, you are lethargic. You are lazy. You are like this. I'm exaggerating, of course, but this is tamas. Mentally, it leads to a negative circle of thought. Depression. Many people, we live in a world, many people complain about depression. And they go to the doctor and they get a medicine. There are many antidepressants these days and doctors give them very freely. No! People suffering from depression need a kick in the butt. Because depression is tamas, it's lack of energy. When you start moving, you generate Shakti energy. And that leads to a condition that is called Rajas. When you are Rajas, I am Rajas now. Because I'm enthusiastic. I talk about something that I'm very passionate about. I am Rajas now. I feel light. I feel exhilarated. Euphoria. That is Rajas. This is what you feel when you are engaged. People, for example, experience that when they work. When they're at the office or any kind of work that they do. They feel Rajas. That is why some people have a tendency to become workaholic. Why do you become workaholic? Not because you love your work. Many people think it's because you love your work. No, that is because you like this feeling. But this feeling you have to work for. You have to activate yourself. You have to engage. You have to move. You have to do something. And the tragedy is, and that is why people are inherently lazy. When we don't move, we naturally fall back into the condition of tamas. That's why so many people in our society are suffering from some form of depression. And the answer is not a chemical pill, it's movement in the first place. And of course, ideally, yoga. Movement leads to rajas, but that is not the solution. The solution is sattva, harmony. And I'll tell you why. What goes up must come down, right? Everything that goes up will come down. So, we are in a tamas condition, low. Now we start moving, and we go up. We are in a rajas condition, and we feel good. But when you keep moving, and you keep engaging, and you keep working, or you keep doing what you do, what happens? There comes a point that you're tired. You can't avoid, you have to take a rest. So what happens when you take a rest? You go up, you feel good, you're tired, you must retreat, you must take a rest. Now you are rested again, so you start moving again, and you go up. And it goes like this. That is a normal human being. If only because of the day and the night. When we wake up, we start to move, rajas. In the night, we go to bed, tamas. So we are never in harmony. Harmony is here in the middle. Harmony is important, we know now, because countries that are in harmony start to develop enormously, become wealthy, happy, thriving. So harmony is important. How does this work in a human being? We know how it works on a national and international scale. How does it work in a human being? In the same way as with a country. For example, when you were a child, you were in a class with 20 children or 30 children. Some of these children are on the top of the class. They always have a good end report at the end of the semester. High grades, A+, in Dutch we say 9 or 10 on your scorecard. But there are also children in your class. They're very bad at studying. They can't keep up. And it almost, if you don't understand, you say these children are dumb. Is that true? No, it's not fair. Because if you look a little bit closer, you will see that the children that are at the top of the class, they come from very stable families. There's a very loving relationship between the father and the mother. They have a very steady routine every day, waking up at the same time, every day same time breakfast, cup of tea during the break, a snack, dinner at the same time, and every evening go to bed at the same time. Very strict routine every day. And love, stability, appreciation. Those children are not distracted, so all their energy is here. And they thrive intellectually. They thrive. So their score is very high. Now if you look at the children or the child whose score is very low, very poor, you will see that they are in a broken family where the parents are always fighting with each other. And the child, when school is finished, they hesitate to go home because they don't know when they open the door whether their parents are fighting or not. They don't know even whether they are going to have a meal or not. So they always live in fear. They're always disturbed. And when they're in the class, they just cannot concentrate on the teacher. So they're not dumb. They are disturbed. And if we create circumstances for that child that are stable, that are loving, that the child doesn't have to fear to go home anymore, the child will also improve and become a good student. So this is why harmony is important. So harmony is not a luxury, and also harmony is not a fantasy. It's real. And this is, now we come to the point where we can distinguish real yoga, traditional yoga, compared with modern yoga. And I told you, maybe you remember, it is so simple and so easy that people don't believe it. But you know now how powerful harmony is. If we can create harmony within ourselves, we will start to thrive. Like a country that is in peace, like a child that is growing up in a stable family. So even if you, when you were a child, grew up in a dysfunctional family, the moment that you start practicing yoga, you heal and you start to thrive. Real yoga, traditional yoga, is real yoga actually. Real yoga leads to sattva. When you practice yoga regularly, what happens is the fluctuations between these conditions are not so big anymore. Total sattva is ideal, but it's not realistic. Even the best yogis, they always have fluctuation, but the fluctuations are smaller. And And the longer you practice, the smaller the fluctuations become. So you are more and more in sattva. During the day, during the night. While you rest or while you are active. And it's just amazing how you then transform as a result of that. You know, when I arrive here, I don't know exactly what I'm going to tell you. I tell you what I feel inspired to tell you. I have a guideline, but that's it. But I feel 1.5, 2 hours with talking about yoga. And every time it's different. Because I teach from inspiration, and that is only possible when there are no big fluctuations. Because inspiration comes from the highest level of consciousness, from the crown chakra. I will explain about the chakras a little bit later on. And I think this is also too complicated to go into very deep. But inspiration occurs when you're in peace. You know, there are many scientists in the world, because education is very well developed now. So there are many theoretically very highly educated people. Scientists. But most scientists will never come with a revolutionary idea. Most scientists will never have a revolutionary invention or a revolutionary insight. Most scientists, because they function on mental level, which is one level below, theoretically they're very deeply inversed. They're very deeply engaged with their field of knowledge, but they cannot think out of the box. So they're very good at repeating everything that they learned with very small improvements, marginal improvements. But the moment that a scientist comes to this condition of sattva, harmony, genius occurs. The kind of genius that you see in scientists like Einstein. The word genius in itself explains this. Where does genius come from? It comes from spirit. And spirit is in the crown chakra, where you have insight, wisdom, inspiration, ability to contemplate. Einstein, the most famous scientist that we know, he had all these qualities. He was not just a scientist, he was very spiritual. If you study his personal life, you will see that he was very eccentric. He was quirky. He was childish. All characteristics of spiritual people. Spirit, spiritual, genius is all qualities of the crown chakra. The crown chakra manifests, becomes active when there is sattva. And that is how I teach. I teach based on inspiration. That's why I teach with my heart. I'm not reading from a book, just a boring text. I tell you a concept in a very practical way, and to help you understand it better, I give you examples even from my own life. That is the power of sattva. And why we need yoga, the science of control, is because sattva cannot be achieved if we don't control. Peace in Europe cannot be maintained if the leaders don't control their emotions, if the leaders don't control their ego. Because the moment they don't control, they start to fight again. You understand that? And the human being on an individual level functions exactly like that. We are constantly at war with ourselves. We don't know it, but that's why we lose so much energy. Pay attention to the chatter in your head and notice that there's so much negativity there. When you meet people, when you are in a social situation, when you go to the supermarket, when you walk in the street, if you pay attention, you will see that there are many negative thoughts, even violent thoughts. It's this that makes us unhappy, it's this that makes us unhealthy, because we lose so much energy because of that. When you become more conscious as a result of practicing yoga, you become aware of that, you will reduce it. You reduce it, keep more energy to yourself, so you become happier, you become healthier. And you become more effective at the work that you do. People who start practicing yoga, they start climbing the ladder of their career in a very natural way. Because you become like a laser beam, you become focused on what you do. Your boss sees that you are more engaged than the other workers. They will give you a promotion. You become a specialist at everything that you choose to do. In a natural way. Not by going to school 10 years, not by studying piles of books. No, simply by engaging and fully immersing yourself, getting to the essence of the work that you do. You become a specialist, your boss will recognize that, and they will give you a promotion. And one day you will be the manager or the CEO. All the other people that for 30 years work in the same department, never make a promotion, it's the people that are distracted, that do not, they just continue on a daily basis to go up and down. Your fluctuations are much smaller, your energy will find a way to manifest, and it will manifest in positive ways. This is the miracle of yoga, and it really, if you practice yoga correctly, it happens before you even realize it. Again, I say, it's so easy, it's so simple, people don't believe that it's true, that it's actually possible. So, what is the difference between modern yoga and traditional yoga? The framework of yoga exists out of 8 limbs. This is the first and the second step in yoga. Is this exercise? No. People think the first step in yoga is physical exercise. No. These are the 10 commandments of yoga. Moral principles. Non-violence, non-lying, non-stealing, non-desire, chaste behavior. Then you have purity, austerity. Why do we need these things? To become holier than the Pope? To become superior human beings? Morally superior human beings? No. The yamas and the niyamas help us to understand how we function in daily life. How tricky we are. It helps us understand how we lose all that energy. It helps us understand why we constantly have conflict with our parents, with our children, with the people in the street or the neighbors. It's because we function subconsciously, we violate all these principles. So when you start thinking about it, you become aware of it, you can avoid it. Life becomes a lot easier as a result. The third step is asana. And this is where it goes wrong. The first step and the second step in most yoga classes are not even taught. The emphasis in all yoga classes is here. Physical exercise. This is the physical exercise of yoga. Where does it go wrong? In the meaning of the word. As means stillness. The asana it means something like standing still posture. Standing still posture. What do you see in 99% of the yoga classes? Movement. Constant movement. Worse, they play music. What's wrong with music? It distracts. It's very nice. New age music or raga. It's very nice. But when you practice yoga, your mind turns inwards. You start to feel yourself. You start to become conscious of your thoughts. So if you have a music player there, it will distract you from the goal of yoga. So it doesn't make sense. It does make sense commercially. Because many people who come to a yoga class, if there's no music, they think, oh, this is so boring. 재미없어. Boring. Because they don't understand that the purpose of yoga is to turn your attention inward so you can feel yourself. Union can occur in silence. And standing still. So all the forms of yoga, with all the movement, is nice exercise, but it's not standing still. And that is why it should not be called yoga. And that's not because I'm a radical, that's because yoga really starts to work. Yoga really leads to those wonderful manifestations, those wonderful results. Healing, becoming happier, healthier, stronger. When you stop moving. Who needs movement? We move all day. It's the problem. It's because of the movement that we always have to go up and down. Yoga is standing still. And that is the control element. And that is why yoga in the past was not accessible to the masses of the people. Because only people that are already somehow spiritually inclined, they are willing to stand still and do nothing. In a tree pose, for example. 1 minute. Standing there doing nothing, no movement, no talking, no music. If you don't understand it, you say, oh, that is boring, I'd rather move. Also, so there is movement, that is the first thing that goes wrong. The second thing, there is music. That is the second thing that goes wrong. What is the third thing that goes wrong? The teacher is constantly talking. Even in the meditation, the teacher is constantly talking. And they put you in a difficult exercise, and you are sweating and you feel your muscles shaking, and they walk around and they say, connect your body with your mind and your soul. And it sounds very mysterious, and you think, wow, I want to do that too. But ask your teacher next time when your teacher says, connect your body with your mind and your soul. Teacher, please help me. I want to connect my body with my mind and my soul. How do I do that? How can I do that? Your teacher, they will either give you a dogmatic answer or they will get upset because they don't know what to say. They're embarrassed. The answer is stop moving. Turn off the music and the teacher should shut up. I'm talking a lot because I need to inform you of what this is about. But in a yoga session, there's very little talking. Unless, of course, we have to address the alignment and the technique. It is a course, after all, very systematic. But in studio classes, I barely talk. We do everything in silence. And very importantly, we stand still. When you stand still, look, another thing that teachers always get wrong is they say, relax in the pose. I will get back to the body and the mind and the soul. I will explain how you can connect the body and the mind and the soul. I promised you in the Facebook event that if you do only this 3-hour workshop, you will not only know, but you understand more about yoga than most certified yoga teachers. Already, with what you have heard so far. Where was I? Oh yeah. Teachers tell you to relax in the pose. But when you relax, you become tamas. We don't want to be tamas, we want to be sattva. So that's not correct. But then you are standing still. It looks like you are relaxing. No, that is the secret of yoga. That is the secret of asana. You are standing still, correct. But you are standing still while actively engaging. And that is where you find the balance. So when I do a triangle pose and I relax, I'm exaggerating, of course, but I'm here. I'm relaxing. The correct way to do it is to engage. I'm not moving, but I'm also not relaxing. So I'm generating energy, but in a very measured way. Just asana practice, when done correctly, leads to an amazing harmony. It is the reason why I fell in love with yoga, with the basketball coach. He taught us to do something that we never even experienced, and it felt so good. I had to find a book, and I started practicing the same day. That is how you become addicted to yoga. If you experience what other people think is very boring. The other, there are more. Pranayama, oh, that's the blue one. Let's continue with the black one. The fourth one is pranayama. We will just go through them quickly. In the course you will learn about all the steps. Pranayama is energy control. Then you have pratyahara. Pratyahara is detachment. This subject is so important. We spent 2 full lectures studying pratyahara. Detachment. Why is detachment so important? In most yoga schools, if they talk about pratyahara, they will say, detach yourself from your possessions. Detach yourself from your material possessions, from your money, from your status. Subject closed. But although it is of course good not to be controlled by our possessions, much more sophisticated and deep is how to detach from all those disturbances. And why is that so important? Because a yoga practitioner becomes more conscious than an average human being. You become more sensitive than an average human being. So you are more affected by other people's activities, by your own thoughts, you become more affected than the average human being. And that is why you need to learn to detach from that. Otherwise it will affect you too much. Next, we have the 3 last steps, which together is what we call meditation. It's dharana, which is the first step, concentration. If you concentrate and your mind becomes really focused, the next stage occurs, dhyana, which is actual meditation. And when you are in dhyana and you solidify that, you deepen that, it will lead to a higher consciousness in which you contemplate. True contemplation is samadhi. These are the 8 steps of yoga. The only one that you learn in most schools, yoga studios, is asana, and even that is not done correctly because there is constant movement, music, and a teacher that talks too much. All right. I'm very inspired today. And you must be tired from all my talking. But one more thing. How do you connect the body with the mind and the soul? You are not one body. Physically, yes. But in yoga, we do not consider the physical body as important. We exist out of several energy bodies. There are 3 main bodies: the body, the mind, and the soul. There are more. There are 7 chakras. Let's start with the chakras. Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddhi, Ajna. This is a flame. I'm not such a good artist. This is a flame. Let's just make that a circle too. The crown chakra, Sahasrara. What are chakras? Many people think they don't exist. It's a nice concept, it's mysterious, maybe interesting, but a chakra is in fact a field of energy, a ball of energy. Our body is energy. The brain controls the body. When I move my hand, it's because a signal from my brain goes through my nerves to my arm and it tells my arm to move. So, if you have a human being, this is the head, the throat, so the brain is a lot of activity. It's like the brain is like the hard drive of the computer. From the brain, thousands of nerves. Nerves are like LAN cables, like internet cables. So these cables go through the spine, down to the groin, to the lowest chakra, to the bottom of the spine. In the head, there is a lot of activity, clearly, because it's the control center. At the level of the throat, there is a little hole in the spine where a small subcable comes out that is responsible for speaking, for hearing, for swallowing. So some nerves come out of the spine here. So you have a ball of energy at that level. That ball of energy you can't feel, you can't see. With modern photo technology, you can make it visible. A little bit lower, the level of the chest, there's another little hole where another sub-cable separates from the main cable. That is responsible for the chest movement, for the lungs, for the heart. A little bit lower, digestion, Manipura chakra, a little bit lower. Svadhisthana, responsible for the bladder and the sex or the reproductional organs like the womb. And then you have at the bottom you have Muladhara chakra, responsible for the sex organs. And all these chakras also have psychological functions. There is fear, there is creativity, there is ego and ambition, there is love and empathy. Here you have the mental body, and of course above that you have the spiritual body. Now, there are three main bodies. Looks like a snowman. This is the physical body. This is the mental body. And this is the spiritual body. Now to make it simpler, I will erase this and start again. Oops. So, physical body, mental body, spiritual body. This is a human being that is physically active. So there is no connection of the body, the mind, and the soul. Only the physical body is active. Physical body, mental body, spiritual body. In the modern world that we live in, with emphasis on education in school, and not everybody, but most people who start working do work that is mental. They sit on a chair at a desk and their work is mainly mental. They are like this. Mentally, very present, strong presence of the mental body, but the physical body is non-existent because they are not active physically. So still there is no balance here. Now the interesting thing here is, and this is important, to understand the importance of harmony. What do they have in common? The spiritual body is not functioning. And the reason for that is because there is no harmony between the physical and the mental body. So either we are busy in the physical body, physically active, or we are busy in the mental body, mentally active, but hardly ever are we in harmony. That is why the physical, connect your body with your mind and your soul, is not taking place. If you practice yoga correctly, you come to the third condition. Physical body, active. Mental body, active. See the difference? There is harmony between the physical body and the mental body because there is energy in both, activity in both. Remember that asana means standing still. What is required to stand still? Mental activity. You cannot stand still without concentration. You can only stand still by focusing on what you do and controlling your urge to move. That is why asana is so powerful. And it's so simple. I say it again, it's so simple. People don't believe it. But this is what occurs when you already at the very basis of yoga practice with asana, without even practicing meditation and energy control and what have you, already this condition occurs. But now that you have harmony between the physical and the mental body, this occurs. The spiritual body awakens. Now you are a holistic human being. You are whole. Your body, mind, and soul are energized, are active. There is harmony. It is here where genius occurs. It is here where inspiration. The word inspiration, you know where it comes from? In spiritus. In spiritus is Latin, it means in the spirit. Spiritual body. So all these wonderful qualities is not a coincidence. You're not born with those. Einstein was not born with his deep wisdom and insights that led him to revolutionary theories that we're still trying to understand. I don't know how he did it, but he was in a condition where he not only intellectually very highly developed because of studying, most importantly for him, was that he was functioning in the spirit, in the spiritual body. And a child in elementary school that has no control, no consciousness, is doing so well, has such wonderful scores at the end of the semester because they are still whole. The child that is disturbed, growing up in an unstable environment, is very distracted, disturbed. Scatterbrain comes to mind. Here, the child in this condition is like a laser beam. It soaks up all the information from the book, from the teacher. The child here is all the energy scattered. And they don't understand what the book is trying to tell them. They don't understand the words of the teacher. So they fail their grade. This is how we function. This is how you connect the body with the mind and the soul. And all you have to do, really, practice yoga correctly. This is happening before you even realize it, because it's in the first place, this takes place on a subtle level. That's also why for people it's difficult to believe in the first place. There are no sound effects and explosions and flashing lights. No, it's a subtle process. If you look back 1 year later, you see a huge difference. If you look back 10 years later, you see an even huger difference, if that is even a word. an even bigger difference. But in the moment you may not see it because it's a subtle process. What you do notice, however, is that sense of well-being. That feeling that made me fall in love with yoga was that sense of well-being. It felt so good. And that is what harmony feels like. Harmony is not a theory. It's not just a philosophy. It's a feeling. You feel that when you do asana correctly. But you also feel it when you go on a vacation to Phuket or Bali or Switzerland and you spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks in a very nice place and you don't have to worry about work or family or other daily things, paying the rent. No. You're in heaven. They call it a tropical paradise. But only when you're on vacation, because the people who live there, they are not in a tropical paradise. Because they have to work, they have to pay the bills, they have to worry about family. But you bought a ticket, you bought an accommodation, you rent a hotel or a cabin, and you can just forget about all your worries and all your chores and duties just for a while. And it is in that condition that accidentally harmony occurs. And that is also the reason why you are willing to spend so much money on such an experience. Because it feels so good. Now the interesting thing is you can do it with yoga and all you need is a mat. And a cushion if you're interested in meditation. But if only you do your asana correctly, without movement, without music, without somebody constantly talking about the technical aspects of the exercise, if you do it correctly, you are in heaven. That sense of well-being, that is what sattva is, that is what harmony is. That's how it works. It does require one thing though. You have to practice regularly. It's the same as when you exercise, you build up a condition. I am a sports guy. I don't do only yoga, that's not enough for me. I need other physical activity. But for me, yoga is yoga, standing still. But I also need some movement. I like cycling, I like making long walks. Where was I going with this? Sometimes I lose the thread.
Oh, you have to do it regularly?
Right, thank you. When you exercise, you build a condition. In Dutch, we literally call it good condition. But you go on a vacation, or you get busy because your life is changing. You cannot exercise as regularly as you did. Your body quickly loses condition, right? You have to get back into a regular routine again to get your old condition back. It's the same with spiritual exercise. You practice regularly, you thrive. If you get busy or distracted, or you don't have the discipline to practice regularly, then you slow down. You just don't benefit from it as much as you could if you practice regularly. The good news is, it comes very naturally. I started practicing yoga and I became addicted to it. But I'm only human. So there were days that I thought, let's have an extra sandwich and a nice tea with milk and honey, and let's just skip yoga for today. If you do it every day, sometimes you just, want to do something else. And you enjoy your extra sandwich and your nice milk tea with honey, But the next morning you wake up and you scratch your head and you say, I don't feel as good as the other days. Tonight I'm going to practice yoga again. You don't even have to force yourself. Just because you miss that good feeling, that discipline to practice regularly comes very naturally. Because you wouldn't want to miss it for anything in the world. I even put my TV out, got rid of my TV to not be distracted anymore. That important. It had become that important. All right, questions? There's so much more. I'm trying to put the whole course into one workshop. It's impossible.
I have a
But
question.
2 hours is more than enough. Go ahead.
I'm a Christian.
Hmm?
I am a Christian.
Yes.
But conservative Christian leaders in Korea
I know.
avoid the yoga
Why?
because yoga is religion, like a religion. So
No.
actually, I worry about that.
Okay. This is a complicated story because there's a lot of sensitivities involved. What is a religion? No. If you look at the origin of Christianity, the origin of Judaism, the origin of Islam, also the origin of where yoga comes from, Hinduism. What is the origin of these religions? It's the human being becoming conscious and asking questions. We call it esoteric science. Some yoga teachers, especially the old traditional yoga teachers in India, there is a possibility that they present it as a religion. You know, in 1999, I had yoga classes at the Indian ambassador residence in Itaewon. Me, a Dutch guy, a cheesehead. So I asked, I was invited not by the ambassador, but by his wife, Kamala. And I asked her, why do you pick a Dutch yoga teacher to teach yoga to the Indian community? Yoga is originally Indian. There is a national pride because it's a huge cultural asset. I'm sure that you can find Indian yogis. You know what she said? Nah, Indian yogis, they're only talking about God. You are not. And that's why she chose me. Yoga is not a religion. I even promise you, if you practice yoga, you will become a better Christian. Because it allows you to understand your Christianity more than before. So you can enjoy your Christianity more than before. There is no conflict. There really isn't.
I think about your opinion, but many people who have a Christianity ask me, yoga is yoga religion?
I know. You know,
So,
when I came to Korea in 1997, and after a couple of months already, I started teaching yoga. And so there is a foreign community in Korea. I started with the foreign community at first. And the first place was in the German school in Hanamdo. But they allowed us to have our yoga there, but it was in the huge gymnasium, which very big. It's for playing basketball and volleyball, and so it's very dusty. It's loud, and not a nice place to practice yoga. But it was a start. So people suggested, why don't you contact the Lutheran Church in Hanamdong? Because the Lutheran Church was very involved with foreign community. They had cultural classes there. They played bridge, you know, card game. Um, they had many activities for foreigners. And exactly because of that, they refused me. No yoga in our church. That means that they don't understand yoga and they don't understand their own religion. There is no conflict.
I think so.
Then it is very important that you follow your feeling, not other people's feeling. But that may entail that maybe you need, do not, if you're really interested in yoga, follow that feeling. But if you think that there will be conflict with your fellow Christians, don't tell them about it. Maybe later, when you are a little more experienced with yoga, you can share it with them and say, look, see, there is no religion in yoga. Follow your feeling. In yoga also, that's very important, to follow your feeling. I will explain all that in the course.
I am very impressed with your harmony and peace, because God is peace.
Of course,
Yeah.
because God is in the crown chakra, spirit. When you study yoga, you understand much better what God is about, your God. And you will see also that between Christianity and Islam and Judaism and Hinduism, there is no conflict. Because we all want the same. We all want peace, we all want happiness. Then why is there a conflict? The conflict is because of ignorant people. The conflict is caused by people who are not active in the spiritual body. So they say, you are my enemy. Because you have another God. But people who have activity in the crown chakra, spiritual body, they say, oh, my God is the same as yours. Let's be friends. We can enjoy our gods in our own way. But in the end, in essence, they are the same. If you look at the spiritual wars, the religious wars, it just totally doesn't make sense. Because religion is about peace. Because God is about peace. God doesn't want us to kill each other because we have different gods. But people who are not active in the spiritual body, they don't think like that because they can't see it. They don't understand it. It's a very sensitive subject, but it comes up in the class once in a while. I have a very practical approach to that. I never tell you that you must believe something. I have a very practical idea or explanation also about religion, as I'm doing now. And it will only improve your experience as a religious person, whatever religion that is. Yeah. Most important is, if you like yoga, enjoy it.
Yes, I am.
Don't let other people's opinion keep you away from it, because it's too valuable for that. I think we need to take a little break. Yeah? Other questions? Quick? You have questions? Alright, let's take 5 minutes break and then we will practice some asana in the traditional way so that you can feel for yourself. Okay?